Mr. Best is not here. It's empty.
It's okay.
We got to cancel the meeting then.
Yeah.
Can't have it without him.
Mr. Best is missing.
Mr. Best.
He's out of
Yeah.
town.
Oh, okay.
All righty, awesome, thank you. All right, good evening, everybody. Today's March 17th, 2025. It's Monday. We're here in council chambers, and today is a committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. But before we begin our committee of the whole meeting, we do our individual committee meetings. Before we do those, I've asked, or the mayor has asked if we can run some budgeting, and we'll just put it before all of our individual committee meetings. So Mayor, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, President, thank you, Council, for moving the budget meetings up ahead of time, so some of our presenters tonight are very busy. So we're going to jump right into it. I don't have the page number, but we're going to turn it over to our Clerk of Courts, Katie Reed, who will go over her budget.
Hello. All right, so on page 26 is the Clerk of Courts general fund expenditures.
Katie, what did you say we need to turn to?
26.
And what's it called? We don't have
the
numbers.
Clerk of Court general fund expenditures.
Thank you.
It's right next to mayor.
Thank you.
Are you ready? Okay. So just to give you guys kind of an update, so this past year in 2024, our case filings on the civil division increased. We've been right around 2,000 for 21, 22, 23, we were at 2,300. And then in 2024, it kind of went crazy and we had over 3,100 filings. So definitely an increase there. The state has put forth a lot of legislation that is causing just, in general, more steps and processes. So we have definitely been busy. Last year, the salary is going up. Last year, had we been at full staff, we would have been at about 700,000. I lowered that down after talking to the mayor last year, and then, but with just the workload, how it's increased to where it is, we do need to be at that level. Plus, with the cost of living increases that the city kind of was looking at, and then we've also had. We've been trying to move stuff around. We had last year an employee that was only making $13 an hour because of windfall. That was all she requested to make. So she left and we had to replace her with somebody making the starting deputy clerk salary. So we are still trying to save money though. For after hours, to get away from overtime, I've been taking the on-call phone so that on the weekends, it's me taking the calls and coming in instead of having to pay an employee overtime. So we have been trying to still find ways to keep that as small as we can. For our postage, so postage, we're requesting an increase of $15,000. With our civil filings, that increases certifieds. And one way we have kind of looked to resolve this, beginning April 1st, any civil case filing that has a certified, it's going to be $5 more per certified, and that will get it to where the criminal traffic division has been. It's just that was never raised up, so that will offset the postage increase. We'll put more money back into the general fund actually than we're going to take out for that postage. So rough numbers, it looks like, based off where we were last year, we would be adding about $18,000 to the general fund there and requesting 15. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions? Those are really the two big ones that we're adjusting from last year.
How many employees do you have there now?
We have, let's see, we have 13. One's a part-time. Any questions?
Quick, fast, and easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katie.
I'm going to bring up Don Patterson, our Parks Director, to go over his budgets here.
Good evening, everyone. A little bit under the weather. Excuse my voice. We can start on page 44 for me. I can answer a couple questions that I received emails about earlier today.
Sorry, we don't have page numbers. What's the title of what
Parks
you want?
Administration, General Fund Expenditures.
Thank you.
You have it marked off as the next page after the paint signal.
Thank you.
But I did get a question about park improvements. Right now, we're in the middle of improving College Park. That project will be completed by June. The next project is Waltz, working on a basketball court there. We also have a couple of pocket parks that I'm working with the mayor on, and then I try to get something done at Waltz. I will give you all a heads up. We're in the process of going through inspecting all of our play structures. So at some point, probably in the next budget, there may be an increase on replacing some of those structures. Also had questions about phones. We have 6 lines at our office. One in every office and one at the front desk. They all get used, and then I have one cell phone for the department. But besides that, I'm working on the copies. I got questions about the copies, but we have one copier in our building that's under contract. Any questions on anything on Parks Administration?
Mr. Patterson.
Yes.
You have $80,000 down there for a vehicle.
Yes, that's for a van. Our vans are in terrible condition. One's been scrapped. The other one keeps breaking down. We have one bus. We mainly use the van for our summer camp and our summer trips, as well as for the seniors.
Is that a 15-passenger van? or-
It's a 12.
12?
Once it goes to 15, you have to have a CDL to drive it.
$80,000 for that?
Yeah, that's what it's state contract, be a contractor.
But that's not as much as a new cruiser that comes stacked with a lot of stuff.
Well, I can send you the contract. You can look through it if you need to.
Yeah, please.
It has to come through here anyway because it
Right.
has to go through council. Yes.
Thank you. So a lot of the other department heads just kind of go down and talk about things.
Okay.
So instead, we'll just kind of work through, like, what would be a professional service for Parks and Rec? Up at 52330.
That is the contract with the YMCA.
That's,
We have shared services for the building.
okay. So that's the professional one?
And I can go through some things I highlighted. There was a difference. If you go down to the advertising, that went up. That's the program guide that you all get. That's mailed out through the whole community. We put more money in there to include all of the departments. So I don't know if you noticed, there's a page from the utilities and from the mayor. The Main Street will actually have a page in there in the next edition too. And we do 2 of them a year, one a fall, winter, and a spring, summer edition. And then the memberships, that's for our registration software, which is up under it. We use a company called Active. We switched from Amelia Smart Rec.
Is registration software like if you're signing up to do an activity?
Yeah, sign up for activities, reserving pavilions, pretty much our whole operation. It has our checks and balances on there. Our reports go to finance through there.
What were you renting and leasing and now you don't have to anymore?
I am not sure.
Okay.
Well, I know some of these accounts, I sat down with each one of my staff members and we went through the fund lines that they use, and we try to crunch some of them up. So instead of having 5 lines of miscellaneous stuff, we just kind of put them into one bigger fund line. But if my next page, if we're done there, I can take more. Go ahead.
One more. What's the capital improvement? I think last year, didn't you guys do fitness equipment with capital?
Yeah, that wasn't through this fund line though. The capital improvement here is for the things that I talked about with Waltz and the pocket.
Oh, the park, paying for the parks and stuff. Okay.
Most of the funding from college was grant money and donations, so you won't see anything on this current budget from college.
How many employees we have down there now?
We have 5 full-time and 1 part-time, and we were converting the part-time position to a full-time position. And we're kind of stretched out, to be honest with you. Most parks and rec operations do not operate the way we do. They usually have a lot of part-time workers to work the programs and in the evenings and weekends, and we do it all. Like when we got bingo, Tammy's doing bingo. When we had flag football, I was doing flag football at nights in the evening. So when people call and no one's answering, sometimes we're actually running programs in the building.
Can you give some examples of like the trips that you take with the seniors?
They take several trips. Usually go to like the Amish country. She'll take them there. She's taking them to different towns. She does lunch with them. We take them to the casino. There's several different trips. She took them on one today that she had to reschedule. I guess she didn't realize that the places were closed on Monday. She was taking them up to I think Geneva on the Lake. A lot of them is like low walking, just stuff so they can get out and they fill up. We have every 3 months we have a trip sign up day where they'll come in and it's almost like a raffle, and they had to get tickets and raffle off for it to actually get the spots on the trips.
Is there a charge for that?
Yes, there's a small charge. We usually charge. Well, it depends on the trip. She's taking them to the Rubber Ducks where they pretty much pay for the ticket. So if there's a ticket involved, the price will include the tickets. Also, we'll put a little charge in there for like gas. So like when we go to the casino, it's $4 for them. I mean, so.
Percentage of the winnings.
Tax the winnings, right?
Any more questions on the Parks Administration? All right, my next page is the Senior Center. Salaries went up a little bit because of us converting part-time position to a full-time position. I can go down to the 52611, that has a significant decrease, and that was from the computer lab and the weight room that we upgraded. We no longer needed that extra money, so that actually decreased quite a bit. I don't know if there's anything else. Just regular gas, power, office supplies.
I guess just for the sake of asking questions, Mr. Patterson, what are, like, an example of operating supplies for a senior center?
Most of that account comes out of, for the cleaning of the building, but we also have operation supplies for our programs. We have, again, the programs that we have for, we have bingo, we have euchre every Thursday. I mean, we have fitness classes in the mornings, 3 days a week. And just our special events. I mean, we've had father-daughter dance. We've had we had an indoor concert. We used the money for that, the concert and dinner. Yes,
How much is a cleaning contract?
it is $1,800 a month.
So how much a year? 2,200? 22,000, I should say.
That's probably most of that.
And who used to clean it before?
The Y used to clean it at one point, and then we had a service, CNS service. He cleaned it, and like his leg got amputated, and we had to find another company. Ever since then, I've just been getting quotes.
Why doesn't the Y clean it anymore?
It's because it was when the contract got changed. That's kind of when everything kind of changed up.
The contract with the Y got changed?
Well, some of the wording, it was totally different. I would say 2.5 years ago now, my commission voted to go back to like the original contract that was going on, so everything kind of got revamped. We pretty much had to lock our connecting door till it was all done, but once everything was kind of settled, that's kind of what happened.
Was the cleaning, so the Y did the cleaning then? Was that part of our contract?
It was there was always this agreement going on where we just kind of paid. I think it was like $1,800 a month, and then that was kind of like our services and the cleaning.
I feel like I don't remember that being the case, because I remember something coming before council. Mrs. Miller, you had your hand up. Do you remember?
Yes, so from the time that the Y began and the senior center began together, there was an agreement. And that agreement was going forward for years and years and years and years. And it's my understanding that either the Parks Commission or Director Patterson did not want the YMCA to clean anymore, so we had to renegotiate the contract. That's how that happened.
That's where the additional money comes from then?
Well, the cleaning had nothing to do with the contract. The commission actually wanted to follow our commission president called and said, I'm gonna make a motion for us to follow the original contract, which was never being followed from the beginning.
Well, that's true, because it could have cost us a lot more money. And when we went and reevaluated the contract, we realized there were some things that were designated as common areas that weren't common areas. So the Y has less income from us because we never balked at the contract. We just followed the contract.
Okay. So it's costing us like 42,000 to be there? If I'm getting that right here?
I don't have the exact number, I can get it to you.
Well, I think you said the contract for the Y was like 20,000.
It's roughly, I think it was
You
somewhere
said that was
around
under professional
11 or 12.
services.
Yes, it's the actual contract. I can get the actual numbers, but It's roughly somewhere around $1,100 a month.
And you said the commission did this?
Yes, it wasn't me.
When did they do this?
2.5 years ago, Denny Little was the president. He would be a good person to reach out to if you want to get more information about the actual contract. And his reasoning at that point was that he didn't want it to come back on us for not following the contract. But I kind of was, I didn't think we should, I thought everything was good, and I communicated that to him, but he wanted to go through with that anyway.
I certainly have copies of the original contract. I have the copy of the new contract. I can certainly get that to you.
Please do, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Lisa, real quick,
Oh, sorry.
no,
I don't know who's, oh, hi,
No.
sorry.
we have an end date on that, or is it kind of an open type thing?
Yeah,
'Cause
it renews.
We're
Yeah.
yearly, or,
Probably, I'm not 100% sure. As I said, we had a meeting where it was my understanding that either the Parks Director or the Parks Commission did not want them cleaning any longer. So due to us opening up for that, they opened up every other part of the contract. So that's what happened.
just thinking, when we're talking about moving them into the new, I just want to, just kind of timeline to see if we're kind of, locked for
Yeah, I'm
the
sure
next
that,
3 to 5 years, or if
I'm
it's
sure the YMCA would be very excited to have it.
Have us go.
So that would be a problem.
I think the contract was like for 20 or 30 years, like the original contract.
So we're back on the original contract now.
No.
Okay.
Was it renewed? I take it or
Yes,
what?
I'm going to say that it automatically renews unless so the original contract with set pricing in it started from the beginning till the changes were required or requested. So once the changes were requested, I personally do not recall the term of the second agreement. But we have it, so I can get that out.
I'm just wondering if we're gonna be hit with fines for ending it early.
It's my understanding, historically, I don't have had no conversations, would be super excited to have additional space, and that's not gonna be an issue.
Okay.
How many memberships do you have at the Active Adult Center?
We're roughly about 350.
How is it, like attendance daily?
We have anywhere from 20 to 80 people daily. Some days it's just pool playing, and some days we have euchre, the whole room's full. We have programs with 100 people. Mayor's lunch, you have quite a big crowd of the mayor's New Year's lunch and things like that. So anywhere from 20 to 100 depending on the day.
Membership starts at age 50.
You're almost there, right?
We're getting there.
I hear some of the trips, I'm ready to be there.
I'm old enough.
Yeah. We can join, Mommy.
And what does it cost to be a member?
It's 25 for a year for residents and 30 for non-residents.
What do you typically take in on that then, roughly?
For just a total.
For the membership?
That times 300. I had to go through and see what actually the residents.
Rough estimate.
9,000.
It'd be 350 times 25 for the lowest.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
Just a typical.
Any other questions for the Senior Center.
The 50s.
Next page will be recreation programs from general fund expenditures.
What did he say?
I'll run down it just in things that pop out. Just the summer playground wages, that is for our summer workers. I've actually been talking, we may have to help shorten a worker and just have someone help with the maintenance guys. All the watering in the mornings is becoming time consuming. So that's the increase there. If you scroll down to personal service, since that increase, that is for the cameras that we have in the parks to make everything live. Right now, everything's on a DVR system, so if something happens, we have to go there and actually pull the footage out off of it. With that, we can actually watch it live from your desk at any park. I mean, anyone could, as far as men that we authorize, could actually watch it live and give previous footage. And they have been working well. Unfortunately, we've caught quite a few people vandalizing the parks, and we've gotten the footage and actually prosecuted them, or a lot of them have been students, and we've been talking to the schools and principals and things like that. And then under it is the price actually for them to convert it over to that. So that's why that's increased a little. Pardon me.
What capital improvements, the miscellaneous capital improvements? 53,730 capital outlay. 20,000. Building or
Yeah, okay, I got you.
buildings and other improvements. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that actually, I got that mixed up. That's actually for the install of the converted over. Because they all need hot spots and new wiring for that.
So that's for the cameras.
So one price is to actually have it running, and then the other one is actually for them to convert it over.
Sorry. Were we on recreational programs or were we on park maintenance?
Recreational programs.
Okay, I got
The
lost for a
maintenance, I
minute.
don't,
Too.
that's just, the maintenance guy is fun line. I don't have.
Thought he said park
So, on recreational programs, the contractual services and professional services, 25,000, that's to make cameras live? The 52331 line?
Yes. Yeah, 52331.
The 25,000, that's for cameras?
That's to make it actual to do the work to make it live, and then the other
Okay.
cost is to keep it running live.
Because there'll be
We
like
have
a
to-
monthly
we have to pay a
bill
monthly
to
fee,
that,
yeah.
yeah. So the 25,000, is that like, sorry, Justin, this might be your world. Do you put like routers on a tree or?
No, each one
Modems?
will have most of the parks will have, there's like 14 actual hot spots. Some of the
Hotspot.
parks have point to point to where we don't have to buy like multiple, because like Lake Anna has 4 spots. We have a spot by the Mum Garden, there's a spot at the Visitor Center, there's a spot at the gazebo, and there's a spot by the War Memorial. That's one where they'll do a point to point to 2 of them, so we won't need a hot spot in each one of those. But each park will have at least one.
Okay.
And it's a monthly service. I've been working with Verizon, who we have a contract with. They'll actually give us all the devices for free, as long as we stay under contract with them for 2 years.
the summer playground wages and the winter recreation wages, there's nothing in there for 2025. Are you not doing those things anymore? It's not very much money, but 511223. I think that's top, right under salaries.
Yeah, there should have been some, just kind of noticed that.
Or did it get kicked up into like the regular salaries?
Yeah, that's.
Gotcha, okay.
I'm pretty sure it went up to the other salaries.
Now, is that the thing that you guys started last year where you would have like
The park plan.
summer high school kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Because a few years ago, when COVID hit, the schools got a lot of extra money, so they actually did their own summer camp, and they pretty much wiped our summer camp. So it was free. They were getting picked up from their bus stops, and they were getting fed. So we couldn't compete with that, so we kind of had to regroup, and we went back to the original park play program where we actually have people at the parks and playing with the kids every day. And we actually do some trips with them too.
Was that 2 parks last year?
Yeah, we had Avonlea Webb and Tuscarora Park.
Dusk. Are you going to continue those, or are you going to add?
We're gonna do that, and we plan on popping around a little bit this year. So we'll go to Edgewood, we'll go to Decker, Crispin. We'll kind of move around a little bit with them.
How do you think that went last year? Was that a good response, or do you picture
I had a
that
pretty good
growing?
response. I mean, we had on average anywhere from 10 to 20 kids. Days that it rained, we brought them over to the center. We have video games and movies and things like that playing for them. So I think it was pretty successful.
Good. Thank you.
Yes.
To Councilor Beck's point, I know the program at Avonlea Webb was used quite a bit. I live right across the street, so I've seen it every day.
I'm happy to hear that.
Are the schools doing it again this summer?
I don't know. That's kind of where we've been in limbo, waiting on them. They said that they weren't going to do it last year, and then they actually ended up doing it, and we had to regroup.
Have we reached out to them?
Yes, we reached out to them, and again, we just wait for them. They ended up having funding that they didn't think they were going to have, but we can't compete with free.
Right. Nobody can compete with free.
Yes.
Thanks, Director. The question's for Fund 230, the OPERS pension. 2024 was budgeted for 11,000. In actual, a little over 1,000. This year, it's budgeted for 5,000. Are we expecting anybody to retire or pay out higher?
Jeremy,
How that works?
help me with that one, but I mean, CARE is close.
The numbers jumped wide, so that's why I was just asking.
So OPERS is based upon how much wages you pay out. It's 14%. So I mean, if you're not gonna, that 11,000 was probably too high last year. But like last year, there was 10,000 in wages. We paid 1,500 in OPERS. So if you basically just take the 37,000 that's in that, multiply by 14%, you're going to get about the 5,500. So that's what OPERS should be if we used every bit of those wages. But it just depends on if the program's happening and how much wages we're paying out of that for those programs.
Awesome. Makes sense. Thank you.
Any more questions on recreation programs? All right, my next one will be the that's it. The rest is revenue. I don't know if you know what to go with the revenue, but that's.
Did you already do park maintenance?
No, I don't, that's not, they control that, the maintenance part of the budget. But
We already did that, I do believe. Did we not cover park maintenance?
No.
You want to do park maintenance?
Any more questions for me?
Thank you, Mr. Patter.
Yes.
Since I got you up here, the soccer robot painting thing
Yes.
that we talked about on the phone,
Yeah, the soccer group didn't want to move forward with it. They want to go with the more expensive one. They want to raise more money, so it's
like $55,000
Yes.
one instead of a $33,000 one.
it's 20 and 30, so they want to do a 30,000 one. But
So then that monies that you planned on spending are out then?
yeah, that's
Okay.
all done.
All right. I was just wondering because I asked if you would let everybody else know about
Yeah,
it.
that's that project's done. For now.
Okay. All right, very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. We'll get to you eventually.
He's on the clock.
All right, so parks maintenance, very next page. Personnel services, as you see, I mean, Jerry made the adjustments so that all the salaries are in the one line item. Operations, maintenance, professional services, things like that are tree trimming, roofing of a pavilion, anytime we would have to hire a contractor, somebody to come in and do work in our park. Repair and maintenance would be supplies, repairing ball fields, repairing pavilions, repairing disc golf, those kinds of things. Most of the other operations and maintenance have stayed the same. Moving down through electric power, gas and oil, radio maintenance is in, I mean, our parks employees have radios in their trucks. Capital outlay. So buildings and other improvements, you know, we're doing some upgrades at College Park. Had a pavilion down there.
There's nothing in that line, though.
What's that?
There's nothing in buildings.
Building and improvement.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sorry.
20,000.
Sorry. Thank you.
I thought maybe I was losing it. And then equipment and furnishing, so that's a mower and a Smithco. So that's, again, helping the parks guys doing their job. Smithco does ball field maintenance. So it drags and preps the fields prior to them lining it to get it ready. It's a motorized thing rather than them dragging rakes or tying something on the back of a zero turn to drag the field. So it's designed just for maintenance. Any questions on that? Yes, Taylor.
Can you remind me what vehicle was purchased last year for parks maintenance?
I believe that was a pickup truck that Mr. Eagle uses on a daily basis. So he's our signal parks guy, so it's his daily driver. It's a 3/4 ton Chevy, if I remember correctly. Yes, Mr. Heidi.
Thank you. So your office oversees the park maintenance?
So my office oversees the street superintendent who oversees parks maintenance, yes.
So you're
Yes.
the top of the chain?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, the money we put out for parks maintenance, since you're the top of the food chain there, if it was introduced and passed through council and put to the ballot, what would your opinion be on selling Harder and Conrad parks?
Well, so I would have to, have a conversation with the rest of the administration on the sale of the park. I know that it's been in discussion before. I personally like all of our parks. I would love to see more usage in some of those parks, but it is also, it requires money in the budget to maintain and have productive parks too, so.
How many parking spots are at Harder?
How big's your car?
Average car?
I don't know.
3, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
And how big is that park?
You're asking for an awful lot of numbers off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm trying to picture it on a map, so.
And are there any amenities there?
There's two
No.
backboards.
No, there's no
No rims.
Yeah.
Two backboards.
In the Parks Program Guide that just came out recently, they show all the amenities at each park, and Harder has nothing. So,
So that's when we discussed making, turn it into.
Harder has nothing at
Pollinator
all.
with the
Harder
walking
eats
trails.
into your mansion.
If you
Right.
recall, Harder Park had play equipment which was burned down, vandalized. It was at that time not insured, so, and I'm not sure if they caught the person. I mean, obviously, it's right there on the border of Barberton and Akron. We have talked about using that park for a pollinator. We've looked at it for an overflow from Mud Run, which runs to the east of the park and runs from Akron into Barberton. So we've had those discussions. I don't think any decisions have been made yet. Obviously, they'd have to go through Parks Commission, City Council, possibly even Planning Commission, depending on what we do. But those are all topics for discussion that have been had and will continue until a decision's made. So, but to your point, there's really nothing there. There was a gentleman who got on YouTube or something and went and fixed the courts, but never contacted the city. And I want to say within a week or less, the nets were ripped down and everything. So here comes a do-gooder that did a nice thing but never contacted the city. We would have directed him to maybe another park. And, everything was ripped down and vandalized again shortly after the nets and things were put up there. So we'll continue to have those discussions on the park and what's the best use for that park.
And then lastly, with that park, Mr. Patterson still here?
No.
Do you know off the top of your head, are there cameras at that park?
I was curious to ask him the same question. I don't know that we've installed any cameras at that park though. But definitely if we're looking at making any improvements there, it would be a wise idea to look into that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on, yes, Ms. Gearhart?
The thrill in your voice, Mr. Shreve, I love it.
Hey, well, we're not talking about, water lines, sewer lines, roads, that kind of thing.
Oh, we'll get there.
I'm not as excited,
Those get me
Like I
excited
said, though, I do love
too.
our parks though.
The water department fascinates me. So, on equipment and furnishings, do you recall what we spent a lot on last year? And then it came down this year for the mower and stuff, but that was a lot last year.
So last year, our trash truck was split between parks, sanitation, and possibly one other fund. So that was a 3/4 ton, I believe it was a 3/4 or a 1 ton pickup truck with I thought I would remember the brand name, but it's got the purple insert in the back that can lift the garbage cans and dump the garbage cans in it.
Which is different from the vehicle underneath then. So it was 2 vehicles?
So,
No? Oh.
It's like a tiny little trash truck.
so no, that
There's
was,
Attachment. to
yes, that was different than the vehicle underneath.
So we're
So
talking
the
two
vehicle
different
underneath was,
vehicles. Okay.
was so for lack of better terms, it was just a vehicle. The one with the trash truck is a piece of equipment because it empties the
Okay,
cans.
that makes sense.
It's like a tiny trash truck. And it goes and dumps the trash in the bed.
Very cool, very cool. Okay,
we
I was just
put it
wondering,
up
I'd love to see it
because
around.
it clearly was a lot more than the 11,500 budgeted by quite a bit, so that's why I was just wondering what happened. So it was a trash truck.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That happened, yeah.
I see it around downtown.
But you see the big jump.
Yes.
Since we're on the sanitation aisle, the only time I really see that truck out is like during the summer months. I mean, is there another person that goes to sanitation, or you just pull from the crew that's down there?
The truck she was just talking about?
Huh?
The truck she was just talking about?
Yeah,
I see it all the
sanitation.
time.
Um,
I see it all the time downtown.
I would say it should be out weekly, emptying cans downtown and in the parks. It should be all year round. I guess I can't speak to that.
So the sanitation, because I remember it being at the water department.
So we moved the responsibilities to help with being able to buy a truck and supply some more employees and utilize that fund a little differently in our operations.
Did we add an employee down there
We
for that?
did. I believe we split an employee between parks and sanitation down there. We've got another vacancy or two right now that we're working on because we've had some bidding, some movement lately.
Is this the department that waters the flowers downtown
Yes.
on the things? So I've had a person, he brings it up to me quite often. Is it that they can't water the planters that are on the ground? Does somebody else have to do that, or can they do that at the same time?
So we were helping so Melanie
Yes.
put most of the planters on. Melanie went and tried to get volunteers because again, flowers they help beautify downtown, they make things look nicer. So she tried to get businesses to help. We had a lot of businesses that were all gung-ho when it was, yes, getting flowers downtown, but then when it came to actual maintenance, they kind of balked at it, and she didn't have a whole lot of help. So we did help with watering those planters this past year, and we are working with her to strategically put them in places that it makes it more fluid for our guys, so they're not going completely out of the way. So when we're watering the hanging baskets, we can water the planters at the same time. So
I tried to save the mums in the parklet, but I couldn't do it.
I mean,
I was watering them.
Well, and our guys, they do want to take pride. They want to make sure that things are, living and vibrant and downtown. And so we're going to try to work this year to make it more fluid.
Yeah, and I love them. I think those planters are wonderful. But, I've had people saying, they don't water them at the same time. What a waste. So.
And I believe that Stacy, if I remember right, when she presented her budget, I believe that planning is purchasing more planters. So I
Yes,
think
she
there's
did say
going to be
that.
more downtown.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
yep. Anything else? All right. Yep.
All right, I want to bring Mr. Incavati up, court administrator, so he's got a number of budgets. So, give it over to us.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Appreciate being here. Kind of like an overview, like you probably know, we have two judges, right? Judge Diana Stevenson, Judge Todd McKinney. Each judge has a full-time bailiff, judicial bailiff that works with them, a full-time magistrate, have a full-time outside service bailiff, all right, that heads out and around. They'll put up the mobilizations on cars, they'll help with the evictions, they'll go out and sit as the evictions are taking place, the forcible entry detainer actions you put that through, the put-outs are sitting out there, and then cover others. We have two part-time retired deputies from Summit County Sheriff's Office that provide court security, right? They maintain a commission to carry a firearm, so that gives us the Supreme Court's requirement for us, at least it's a best practices, to have armed security on the floor, right? We screen them as you come in the building. We don't pay for an armed security guard down there at the screening. We need it at this level, and so they'll provide that. So those are two part-time guys that do that, and then again, myself. There's 4 people in the probation department, 4 full-time probation officers, right? They have their own separate probation fund, and I'll cover those too. And we run special project funds, right? And those, as you see, those are set up by statutes. Ohio Revised Code allows courts to establish special project funds for the efficient operation of the courts. Some are specifically designated for computerization and legal research. Some are just for the efficient operation of the court. And so by statute and then journal entry, we go ahead and establish some of those funds. Some go back to 2008. We talked a little bit about the building fund, right? That's a fund that started in 2008 at like certain charges, $20 a pop, certain civil filings, $20 a pop, right? And so it builds up over the years. 2013, they entered in additional charges for court special projects, just the operation in general, right? So this was always designated to building, others designated to just general operations. We've just, this year, I think starting April 1st, since the first time since 2013, we're gonna up those a little bit. Statute allowed one to kind of increase, and then the other we're gonna take the opportunity to go ahead and increase a little bit to try to keep the revenues up a little bit with some of the expenses that go. So really what I guess what I'd start with is the 101, the court, and you guys don't have page numbers, right? So it's municipal court judges at the heading. And so you have salaries that are the personal services, and those are the individuals aside from probation department that has their own. That is the personal services contract that we have there. Then the rest are operation and maintenance underneath there. We really historically are trying more and more and have shoved the operations and maintenance over to those special project funds since the statute allows us to do that. So you'll see those in like the 209, the 210, the 214 accounts of what we'll still talk about. So, you know, what we do pull out of there, supplies and other law library, printing stuff, some printing services, right? So there's a statute that says, hey, you know, you've got a municipal court in your city, and by the way, you need to provide them with a law library. The statute specifically says that. Well, law libraries have certainly changed over the years now, and a lot of it is electronic, so that doesn't come out there. But there are still some print services that we use, and that's what you'll see out of there in the office supplies or the operating supplies. I think up on that bench, you've got a couple, the printout of the Ohio Criminal Law Handbook, right? So it's just there, and that's updated a couple times a year, so you stay active with that. And that's pretty much what we'll do. Our outside service bailiff that I mentioned, you know, he'll go through, he has a vehicle, we purchased a vehicle last year, 2023 or 2024. And so the maintenance for that, insurance for that, gas for that is also then included in that municipal court judges line. Is there any questions there with those? Okay, we'll move on to probation, and it's kind of the same thing. I got 4 full-time probation officers. And so their personal services, I'll say 3 of the 4, right? So a statute comes in now, and I'm able to pay one of the probation officers out of a special project fund and not pay it out of the general fund. So we've taken an opportunity to do that, and you'll see that later. But you have that there. The same kind of thing. Our operations and maintenance of what the probation department does, really out of the 101 general fund, try to keep that to a minimum. You'll see the copy release there, and then the telephone. That's been a bit of an issue, but you know, we just don't know. It's like, okay, whatever. It's like a voice over internet protocol phone that we got dumped on, and we schedule a certain amount for it, and then Jeremy takes that money out and pays it for us. So I guess we're okay with that. So overall, there's just not a lot coming out of there. Any questions then with their 208, excuse me, the general probation fund? All right. Then I get into probation services fund. Probation services fund is really, revenue from that is generated from a couple things if you guys are looking at it. It's, you know, sometimes the probation department will charge a fee for certain services, right? And we'll try to keep up with that, again, and also trying to keep them reasonable. So there's certainly a revenue source for probation services. If you're on reporting probation, if you're on appearing reporting probation, there's a fee that's assessed with that. Certain programs like the SLIP program, a driver assistance program for your license, right? There's a fee for that program. So some of those get bundled back into the revenue for the 208 probation fund. Then the other one that you see there, OMAS, that is grant money that comes, $35,000 I think, and that's for our drug court, which is a Supreme Court certified drug court that's a specialized docket. So they kind of get on a different track rather than just the typical sentencing and handling of cases that we do here, kind of separate those individuals out. And so we get money from Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services to assist there. And there are a couple different ways that we can help with that program. So that's what you see at the 35. And so we also then can pay for an individual. One of our probation officers is paid out of this fund. So that's what you'll see with the professional services there. A fair bit of the operation and maintenance professional services, you know, they'll have programming that they pay for, maybe through Oriana House, or maybe they'll go through and do some additional setups for things like house monitoring and electronic house monitoring, and maybe some scram bracelets, things of that nature. But they also, you know, Rebecca will take those out of other funds too, we'll talk about. Any questions there with how those are broken up? Okay. Then the next one I have is the court computer fund, which is the 210 fund. That is maybe a bit of a misnomer because it's actually going to change. She's not here, so I can maybe tell her we're not going to let her do this. But the court statute changed, the state statute changed on this. This is the clerk's office fund, right? So this is the clerk computerization. So The early statute said, hey, the court can determine that for the efficient operation of the clerk of courts, certain funds are necessary for the computerization of it. And that's what this is, all right? That statute changed effective late last year to just say, hey, it's the clerk's fund. Clerk doesn't need the court to issue an order to expend or anything of that nature. It can just come right out of the clerk's fund. So they generate those by costs assessed on cases, and that's where the revenue source comes. That builds a little bit, and you see that there. Historically, we've always talked about potentially changing, even looking into changing a case management program, like a pension, if that word's come up, that's our case management program, and Surge handles all that. What it really maybe is we're getting close to it, let's assume that they expand and the building changes its footprint here, right? And we have maybe the civil division on another floor, or you're doing something different because of this building project that you talked about, the Justice Center, and the city services moving down to the First Merit Building. In that scenario, we can use those monies to do the network wiring. We can change and do some additional things here to do that in-house, so that frees up money elsewhere in that program, that whole project that's tight to begin with, to say, okay, well, hey, we can take care of wiring, computering, and do some other things of that nature for the clerk's office out of the money that we've saved over time with that. So it's budgeted there, and you've probably seen it historically. We budget it, don't spend it, budget it, don't spend it, just in case that project comes up where we decide to change the computer service program. You can see there's also personnel expenses, right? So we also kind of share. There's not one particular person that's paid out of that, but to try to help keep pace with salaries and some of the staff. The connection is that staff in the clerk's office and whoever that staff might be paid out of there needs to have some nexus to the computerization. And some of them will handle the electronic filing, some of them will handle some of the Henshin back work that they could do just on their own computer, right? So we do that here without having to pay Henshin. And then the other, you'll see Swisscom gets paid out of that. Henshin gets paid their annual service fee and things out of that. So that's what you have here. Then we get out of order, because that shouldn't be next. We have then, you talked about that, our court special projects 209. That's kind of our general operating. So 209 is what we kind of pay for, and that would be court special projects operations. So that's our 209 fund within the budget, and that houses quite a few things for us. We'll pay for office supplies. We'll pay for, actually, Andy is paid, our magistrate is paid out of that one, right? So we pay for him out of there. Then the other is, this has jumped up. Professional services, you'll see a fair number of that. Interpreters, so court interpreters, right? Foreign language interpreters. And just not much of an issue. Last 2 years, it's just skyrocketed, which is fine. It's great. We got great service providers. They're wonderful, and quite frankly, reasonable for the service they provide. But our use of that has just really gone up. Spanish, but my goodness sakes, anybody, Serbian, anything. So those are all under the service providers there, and that's professional services line. Questions with those? All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you. Under the general fund reimbursements, jail operations, it was consistently 450,000, and then this year is zero?
Correct. So that 450,000 was budgeted every year to reimburse, or at least kind of funnel the money back to the city in some way, shape, or form to help pick up some of the expenses that the court had, right? So it was generally on a month-to-month basis. We would do a journal entry and say, okay, to the 101 account. So if you look a couple lines down, there's 450,000 now as a inter-fund transfer. That is that 450,000, so that's no question. That 450,000 now is an inter-fund transfer that's going to go over into the building fund project that can be used for any one of those same still kind of things. It can be used as something the city is expending on the Justice Center part of the project, something the city's used to expend on personnel with regard to that justice project. As long as it's court related, then we will do that same journal entry. Right now, it's just as it has been every year, we're just going to put that 450,000 off aside, and rather than the general fund, it sits on a line item within the buildings fund, and you'll see that as a revenue source on the buildings fund, the 211 one. So that's where it's going to sit. There's a couple things that will happen that as we go forward with this, right? As we go forward with the project and what the court's done as far as it's part of the funding of this project. There are a couple things about it. And so if I can maybe, does that answer your question? If I kind of dovetail into the 211 court building fund, right, where that money goes. So what has that historically been doing? That was the first one. That was one that started in 2008. And that's the one that sits at about 3 million now, right? So since 2008 at 20 bucks a pop, it's up to just shy of $3 million. So they're putting together the financing package for what would be this project, right? The Justice Center and City Building. They said, okay, well, you have that 3 million, right? Yeah, it is, and that's what it was for, right? It's up to a court by journal entry, go ahead and say, sure, we'll use it for that, but we pledged it to that project, right? So now I'm looking at 211 and that court special projects building fund. And the 3 million that's in there is pledged to the project, so there it goes, it's gone. Okay, since 2008, 20 bucks a pop, there it is, it's just gone. The other thing, and I think there was earlier discussion about this, is we've pledged then 200,000 to the debt service, right? So annually 200,000 to the debt service. So where does that come from? Well, that's what you'll see as the revenue source every year for 211 building fund. So you look at 211 court special project building, that fund generally brings in $225,000, $227,000 every year. That's pledged to the debt service. So NASA, there's nothing left. That's everything, right? That's our 3 million gone. That's our $200,000 annual that comes in. It's pledged to your debt service. The rest of that 25,000 or so is a split with the city that we run with for your court security, or the building security downstairs, right? We benefit from that. You guys benefit from it. So it's roughly a $50,000, $55,000 contract for US Royce, right? Royce US now, used to be Tenable. We split that with the city. So that's that last 25 or so. So that 450 comes over and sits in there now, right? The city had used it to direct for certain things that were done, and that's what we'll do with it. If it was the roof again, I think about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we did our percentage with the roof. And if it's the air conditioning or whatever it might need as we get into that project, that's what it's there for. Because you come to us and say, hey, you had this money, can we use it for the fair share of the roof? Can we use it for Hasenstop and to redo their assessment, their architectural drawings as we start drilling down? Yeah, that's what it's there for. Here, we'll use it, right? So if that's all disappearing, then that's where it's going to sit. If there's another issue that comes up, then that money certainly can be directed towards, and by statute, the operation of the court, the effective operation of the court. So if there's a need on behalf of the city for the court operation that is there, then that money's there for it. And we're hoping it doesn't get dwindled any further. It's a little bit of interesting news that we have, and I won't go on too much longer. A lot of that money that comes in on traffic cases that we resolve are cases, older cases, where someone's realized they've got a hold on their license, right? So if you don't show, you're blowing off your fines and costs. You're not appearing in your case from, whenever, 8, 6, 7 years ago. You put a hold on your license, and all the municipalities did that. Say, hey, you're suspended, right? So there's a forfeiture of your license after because you didn't pay or you didn't come to court on your traffic ticket and whatnot, right? And okay, it was effective, and it brought people in because okay, they got stopped driving under suspension. It's like, oh, you better go take care of the case in Barberton. Well, then here they show up, and then that generates a case resolution for us, right? And if they were in a hole on their license, as you might imagine, as that continues to build and build and build, they get into these deep, deep pockets of trouble with their license, and it just can't get valid, right? It just can't. And if they roll in here with it, and it's us and maybe Akron or Stowe, we've all kind of come together and said, look, we can work together and help you get your license. In fact, that's one of the programs we talked about in probation that generates source of income is it's a SLIP program. Look, let's work with Akron. We'll help you out here. Just get you on a payment plan of $25 a month. We'll lift all our holds. It's great that you're driving, right? And you have insurance. We're all happy. Starting April, we can no longer do that across the state. And they have to lift all those holds off. And all in all, there's a positive end to that because while we were welcoming you and saying, yeah, look, $25 a month, fine, we'll lift them, let's get your driver's license back. We'd send them to other courts and, no names please, but you send them to other courts and they said, well, no, they want everything paid in full before they would lift their holds. That's not helping. That doesn't help, right? So the legislature just said, no, we're done with that. So bottom line after all of that, I'm sorry, is that we don't know what kind of impact that's going to make on the cases getting resolved here that had a source of income for us on it. So let's also say that 450 sitting there is like, well, okay, we've raised these a little bit, right? We've increased it $10. been sitting there from 20, so we'll see if that helps a little bit. We don't know where we're gonna be standing a year from now, some of that revenue stream, so just kind of a buffer, if you will, with all that. Any questions or anything else? That was excellent. And I think that puts me down to the last one. That is, you guys, let's see, we cut through everything else. Well, there's a court legal research fund that you have there, and that is, we're capped at $3 per case, and we charge $3 per case. And it's the same kind of thing you have with the clerk's much larger fund, is we can pay for computers and toner, and we pay for legal research out of that, right? And it's really more than the print stuff anymore. Then lastly, it's the indigent, what do they call that? The Indigent Drivers Alcohol Treatment, right? IDAT. So IDAT is a couple different things, again, a creature of statute, where what happens? Someone's charged with an OVI offense, okay? And those penalties at $375, which is a state fee, right, on your first one. That's comprised of many different components. Part of that is, hey, you're gonna pay for IDAT funds, which are indigent defendants that are charged with OVI offenses that need help with treatment, assessment, or transportation, right? So we can use those funds for that. And they build up over the years because that's all you could use it for. That's all you could use it for. And so now you'll see there are several different things now because the statutes have modified over the years where we can use it now for any criminal offense, because it only could originally be for an OVI offense. Now that's been expanded by statute. It could be any criminal offense where you got an indigent individual with an alcohol or drug use component to the case. That's why they landed here, then we can help them with those funds. So that's expanded a little bit more. We're able to use it a little bit more, which is nice. Expanded it even again in September of 2023, where we can now use it for an expense associated with a specialized docket court certified by the Supreme Court of Ohio. That's our adult drug court. So I'm paying some of our people out of that now too. Just the percentage they work on specialized docket, but I can pay some of that salary there and not come to the general fund for it. So that's basically how we run. Do you guys have any questions? Our office is around the corner, so you know where to find me if you got anything. But yeah.
Rough estimate, how many employees does the court have?
So we're going to set the clerk's office aside, right? So I've got 4 in probation. I've got 2 judges. There's 8 with a bit of 9, 10, 2 part-time guys, so 11.
And I know Councilor Easterling was bringing up some things with copier leases and all that. How many copiers and printers does the court?
We run just 1 probation. I know, and we'll speak for Katie. I know just because she lets us use them. She paid for, but she's got 1 networked unit in her office, and then there is an older, I think, off-lease copier that is just like not on network that is back around the corner too. So we use those. Probation is the one that has that lease for their 1 unit inside their office. Court really doesn't use one. The clerk's office is gracious enough. We use them. We use their paper. So that's about it. Be nice to get away from that. I have to pay for an e-fax subscription every year out of the court's electronics fund because we still have to fax things now and again, or we still get faxed. Like, oh, what? So that's the other one. But beyond that, that's the one. Just the one.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lastly, for this evening, will be the finance director with his budget.
I'm sorry, I will be using page numbers. I'm Mark now.
Yeah.
What page is that?
I don't know. I mean, I can look it up for you, but it's gonna take me a minute. I'm gonna use my tablet for it.
Are you like in the beginning?
I'm right after civil service, so towards the beginning, but before the law department. I'm in between civil service and law.
Found ya. No, I didn't.
Just past the mayor.
Yeah.
2 past the mayor, I think.
Yeah, it's just a couple pages past the mayor's.
Found it.
Everyone ready for this one? I'm not as exciting as court, so sorry about that in advance.
It's very exciting, Jeremy. Thank you for being here.
Not too many people say it's fun in finance, so.
Were you giving us extra money?
Huh? Like everyone said, the top portion is personnel services. It pays for My salary, my assistant, my executive assistant, the payroll clerk administrator, and then 2 clerk administrators that handle accounts payable and utility billing. Well, no, utility billing's split between enterprise, so just accounts payable. So there's like 4 or 5 employees that hit the general fund in my office. I have a total of 8 employees in my office. The other ones are just split 50-50 amongst the water and sewer funds. Going down, training and travel, I usually keep it at 4,000. There is a training that I would love to go to in June. June's just a very bad month for me from work aspect. So I always keep money in there. If I do go, it's a little over $1,000 for this week-long training conference. I'd love to go to it sometime. Just trying to get the time to work it out to get to it. There is some other trainings here and there. A lot of times if a training's in this area, I will try to go, or my assistant will go to trainings in this area. We're not ones that like to travel and stay overnight places, just for the same main fact, with both of us having little kids, just trying to be away from the home for that period of time. So we try to avoid it, but we do try to hit some of the conferences and that are in this area, and try to hit conferences that are going to be beneficial. To me, I don't see a benefit of going to some conferences where I'm not going to learn anything. To me, it's just a waste of time. I better serve to be at the office at that point in time. Professional services, a few of the things that's paid out of that is our annual comprehensive financial report, the preparation work on that, the review on that book once it's prepared, the general funds portion of OpenGov, it's a fine budgeting tool, the general funds portion of what we call debt book. It's a software that tracks our debt, but it also prepares the financials for 2 GASBs, GASB 86 and 90. I sent it in the email. 84, 96, something like that. GASB 87 and 96. It prepares those statements. It's one of those things, a lot of people say these new GASB rules come out because CPAs are bored and they need more money. So they come up with these GASB rules for governments to follow. So it tracks that stuff. It helps with the preparation of the act for, I'm trying to think. And then I have on retainer a municipal advisor. He helps with the debt issuances for the city. And whenever, and I know I've been using him quite a bit here of late with the city financing for the Justice Center project. So use him, and then we also have a consulting group. I cut back this year. Usually met with them once a month. It was very helpful for me during the navigation of all the ARPA funds. We would bounce ideas off of them. They're actually an audit firm, so they were working with the state on the whole implementation and auditing of ARPA funds. So it was a very good resource for myself and my assistant, navigating all these ARPA projects, making sure that we're not going to get dinged in an audit or something of that nature, because we didn't want to pay anything back. But they also will give us a heads up of things that are coming down the pipeline. I mean, so we have a uniform guidance book that we have for federal grants, and we have to follow, when we have a federal grant, we have to follow uniform guidance. There's changes that's needed in that, that's coming down the pipeline. They gave us a heads up on that, and helping prepare and make sure our uniform guidance is in compliance with these upcoming changes. So they're very helpful for my department. Now, all that adds up to get together to be 65 to 70,000 a year for those services. So I am fine if you guys would like me to cut back on professional services some in my line. I'm fine probably giving up maybe like 10,000 of it. I'm perfectly fine with it. I can still operate. I just keep a little bit of a buffer in there if we do see a need on a finance standpoint of a new piece of software or a new add-on for our software to cover the general funds portion. This year, I don't see any sort of need like that. I just kind of have it in there as a buffer type thing. Audit and publications, that's our audit. That's our annual audit that's done. That's where that's paid out of. Repair and maintenance, that's mostly being used for our copier lease right now. But it also helps cover any sort of breakdowns in my office. Or no, repair and maintenance is not the copier lease. The repair and maintenance is our postage meter, or postage machine. It's for that lease. That's what that's for. So there's one postage machine in the city. It's in my department. So everyone's mail that gets sent out, except for courts, comes down to my, clerk of courts, I should be specific, clerk of courts, gets sent out of my office. So it comes down, we run it through the postage machine, put the postage on it, put it in the mailbox. So that's what's mostly paid out of that. Like I said, if we do have something break down, that's where we'll pay it out of. Maintenance contracts, that's going to be like our service contracts for our accounting software. We have an annual subscription fee to that, or service fee for that. We have a bigger folder insert machine through Pitney Bowes. We pay for that service contract with that. Copier lease, we have one copier in my department. We try to avoid over costs on that copier at all costs. We try to do our best to limit, because we do have a color printer that's a few years old in our office, so we try to send color stuff to that printer versus the copier, because I know those copies can add up, or those pages can add up over time. Telephone, didn't have anything for it. We do have telephones. I'm unsure why the finance department isn't hit up in that chargeback for the phones, but we aren't. Memberships, some of the memberships that I'm a part of, the U.S. and Canada Association of Public Treasurers, the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers, the National GFOA, the Ohio GFOA, the Ohio MFOA, Municipal Finance Officers Association. My assistant, he is a member of the Ohio APT and Ohio GFOA, and also my CPIM certification that I have to do on a yearly basis is paid out of that. Office supplies, that's kind of just our catch-all. If we need a new computer or any sort of office supplies, that's get paid out of there. And postage is the mailings that we do every year. So any sort of mail we have to send. Any other questions? See? I told you it's not fun. I have people yawning on me here.
I'm cutting you 10 grand.
It's all right. It's all right. I get it.
I tried not to.
I get it.
She put her coat on and warmed up, and we almost lost her. It wasn't your smooth voice, Jeremy. She's
I
warmed
know
up.
it's not my voice.
So I appreciate you answering that, and that's why I said it's hard to assume your questions because you were going to present so well. And the only reason I asked about the vehicles because your line does say vehicle collision repair. So I'm like, when did they get a vehicle?
Where does this say that? Oh, maintenance.
Yeah.
It's under one of those things where we had to create a broader category because some people's maintenance is that
No, that's okay.
52431, and some people have specific line items for vehicle repair, collision repair. So
Oh, that's why I was just checking. I thought
So
you had
no.
the finance mobile out there.
no vehicle, no cell phone. Finance mobile. You act like we travel a lot.
Yeah, like little dollar signs. Sounds like a Batman villain.
Yes.
You said you would be comfortable with giving 10 grand of that 10,000 of the professional services back.
Mhm.
Where would you put it?
just go back into the general fund if you guys wanted me to cut it, or wherever. Like, if you guys see a need somewhere else in the general fund, I'm fine with it going to some other need in the general fund if you guys see fit. If not, another possibility is take that out and reduce the transfer from the general fund by to the general fund by $10,000. To me, it's there for a buffer if needed, but like I said, I don't foresee any sort of projects like that. If I did, I would have already been in conversations with a company and demoing products, and I'm not in anything like that right now. So
we could leave that 10 grand, that 10,000 in like the income tax fund?
reduce the transfer from income tax or emergency reserve, either or, and reduce the appropriation in my department, for my department.
I know where we could use 10 more grand. Demos.
I was gonna say, his wrecking ball.
No.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Any other questions?
I got one real quick, I think.
Yeah.
You touched on that copier lease about color copies being more expensive. So is that a per copy?
No, we have an allotment. So each copier, and Todd can chime in a little bit on this. So each copy machine has a certain amount of black and white copies it can do and color copies before it kicks into overage. So I'm just going to make these numbers up, so don't hold me to them. We might have an allotment of 3,000 copies black and white and 1,000 copies color. Once we go over those numbers, and I don't know if each department's different, but once you go over those numbers, they can charge you X amount per page.
Because there's a lot of difference in copy leases as far as dollar amounts. Some of them are up in the 5,000 range.
Yeah, and that's where you.
Is that a yearly number, Todd, or is that monthly, or
So
just
our copy lease for 13 machines is $1,570, $72.71. So that's monthly, and then there is a copy cost. The largest amount of copies comes out of the utility office, primarily due to council packets. I mean, there are a lot of copies, I'm sure that utilities do, but when Lori, weekly prints the packet, that everybody gets, and we stick extras in there. So if we really wanted to cut some of those costs, we could start there by reducing that if it was able to be put on less pages or something along those lines, do more electronic. And I don't know, I would have to look at, but I believe, so black and white is fractions of a cent. So I want to say it's like 0.005 cents.
It is, because that's a public record issue.
Okay, and then it's about 1.5 cents, I believe, for a color copy, if I remember correctly.
I just want to offer, our copy machines are not just copy machines. In my office, it's our fax machine, and we have to use faxes. As Monty can tell you, certain documents in the legal law enforcement area cannot be emailed. They have to be faxed. So we have our copier. I don't know if all the copiers are like this, because I'm kind of surprised to hear Bobby Gravani say that about the fax service. Our copier faxes, it's our scanner. So when we do discovery for criminal cases, we are able to scan and email all of the things. Scanning probably costs a minimal amount of money. I'm sure it isn't. I hope it's not, but we scan all the time. And we have to make, and we have to make copies of discovery for defendants or defendants' attorneys. So I'm surprised it's utilities. I thought for sure he was going to say us, because that copier, which does all of the function, goes constantly in my office. So the copiers aren't copiers; they're multi-use machines. So, as the mayor said in his email, some departments have printers and a copier. The law department isn't one of those offices.
And with that being said too, I'm trying to reduce the amount of machines outside of copiers, because we do have, so the copiers we have a hold option. So again, so there's protected printing. So HR and safety, if she's got to print a sensitive document, she can't just print it on a public machine. But our machines actually have the ability to hold that until she's in front of the machine. She can put a code in and it can print it out. That's something that we're looking at expanding. And again, that's a free service. It's not costing any more. It's just we don't utilize that option on the machine currently, but we're wanting to explore and delve into that. And like Lisa touched on, it's fax, it's scan, it's, it'll scan it right to your email. You can email it to, you can send an email address in there. Trying to think, there was something else I was gonna point out, but it slipped my mind right now, but it'll probably come back to me.
Councilman Easterling, I have I can share with you the actual invoices, and I believe there's a breakdown of each department, number of copies, color, black and white. I'm not sure of the time frame.
Yeah, no, I just, absolutely.
Any other questions for me? All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's all we have for presentations this evening. I did want to share some, I have it available. Question came over this weekend of memberships and trainings, and I know that Mr. Shreve had given that information earlier today, I believe, and some of these might be repeats, but belong to the Ohio Municipal League. We belong to the South Summit Chamber of Commerce, the Kiwanis, AMATs, Mayor's Association of Portage, Stark, and Summit County, and then also I belong to the Ohio Economic Development Association. So that money is, those memberships come out of a variety of funds since we deal with a variety of departments. So.
Is that all you have, Mayor, for everything? All right. Let's go ahead and take a 5-minute break, reset, and we'll come back and begin our committee meetings.
I'll
All right,
send it to
thank you. All right, due to some time constraints, we're gonna do finance and personnel first, since there is nothing being referred to them. So we'll start with finance and personnel with Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to bring the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. It is Monday, March 17, 2025, 7:38 PM here in council chambers. All members of my committee are present, which includes myself as chair, Mr. Heidig, Mr. Griffin, and President Greer. All others are also present, and guests as noted on my sheet. We have a few requests for legislation, the first being a request from Lisa Kolish Miller, Law Director for the City of Barberton, requesting legislation to authorize the approval of payment to Retzel in the amount of $21,000 for 2 invoices, 1 reading and emergency wording as requested. That is attached. The first is for $6,525 for legal services rendered through December 31st, 2024. And the other for $13,661.48 for legal services rendered through January 31st of 2025. Are there any remarks?
I'd just like to explain what happened. So every year, towards the end of the year, or the first of the month, I'm not sure the timing, Jeremy's office becomes relentless about closing out purchase orders. And it's okay, we know that. So last year, Hannah, who was new to that position, closed out purchase orders, and then a bill came and we had to go through council again. So this year, Hannah, having learned her lesson, called Retzel and said, listen, I'm going to close out these purchase orders. Do we have any invoices outstanding? And Retzel said no. And so she closed out the purchase orders and we had bills outstanding. But how it happened was because Browse and McDowell merged with Retzel in October. I think October 1 was kind of their line in the sand date. And those invoices were for October, November, and December for attorneys from Browse, but working for Retzel. And I think that somehow the bills got a little messed up. However, I'm making my arguments about those bills because we specifically called and asked, and they specifically told us no. The second one is a timing issue. As you know, until the budget's passed, each department only gets 25% of their budget, and I can't control when people file lawsuits against us, and so that's how those ended up. And I apologize, we try to do a better job, but that's what happened this time, and I wanted to make sure you guys knew what happened.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nothing else, do I have a motion to call for this?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor? Aye. Okay, next, this was referred from Parks from last week, a letter from Don Patterson, the Parks Director, requesting legislation to appropriate $15,000 from the unappropriated Parks Revolving Fund to the capital budget of the Parks Revolving Fund. 1 reading and emergency wording is requested. This was granted to the Parks and Rec Department for the College Park project and will be used for fencing and a new restroom. Were there any remarks regarding that? Hearing none, can I have a motion to call, please?
So moved.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, those in favor?
Aye.
All right, for pending legislation, we have ordinance 37-2025. That will be what we just went over, which will be read next week. And then the budget, which we also already went over this evening. So next week will be the third and final reading for the budget. Are there any questions or remarks about that? All right, I'll go ahead and open it up for miscellaneous discussion for finance and personnel. If there's anything. Mr. Flaker, do you have anything else back there?
I do not.
Okay. All right, with nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn, please?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, we are adjourned at 7:42.
Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. Next up is streets, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to call the Street, Sidewalk, and Lighting Committee to order. It is Monday, March 17th, 2025 at 7:41 p.m. Everybody on the committee is present, including myself. all other council members and guests noted on my sheet. We don't have anything requested for this evening. We don't have anything pending. Does anyone have any miscellaneous things to say?
Of course I do. Mr. Tedek, how's Worcester Road West going?
It's going well. The contractor believes in the next couple of weeks, they have 3 crews putting the water line in. In the next couple of weeks, they'll have most of the main line in. They'll come back and continue to do some of the street crossings, hydrants, service connections thereafter. This week, they mobilized additional crews to finish up the last of the inlets and storm connections. And when the weather breaks, you're going to be starting putting in the concrete and starting to do the curb and sidewalk and stuff like that. So it's moving very quickly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Anybody? How about you?
When are we opening up the bids for the streets? Or are they open now?
Should be next month.
So the advertisement is out now. 2 weeks and a day. I don't remember what they were opening bids. And I would say 2.5 weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Ready? Go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, thank you, Chair. Mayor, I know you sent an email talking about the polls for South Van Buren and Snyder. Did you hear anything today, maybe, of a start date? Oh.
I can answer that. The contractor let us know they're bringing back their workers that do that work. They had them, I think, laid off for winter shutdown, and they're coming back this Thursday to get a start on that. But the poles are in, and they say Thursday now they'll be starting to put them up and put the new equipment in.
And do they estimate how long that would take? Like a day, 2 days, week?
I can find out. It shouldn't take that long.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. We are adjourned at 7:44.
Next up is Environmental Health and Social Services with Mrs. Hager.
With President, Environmental Health and Social Services, meeting tonight in Council Chambers. The time is now 7:45. All members of my committee, with myself as chair, Shorter Griffin as co-chair, Taylor Thompson, Justin Greer, as well as other council members are present, as well as guests as noted on my sheet. We have no requested legislation, no pending legislation. Is there any miscellaneous discussion from the gallery? One thing real quick, on March 3rd, the mayor did send out 2 reports from the Summit County Health Department. So if you're interested in reading them, they are in your email. With nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
In a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, and we are adjourned at 7:46.
Thank you, Mrs. Hager. Last but not least, Planning, Annexation, and Codes with Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning and Annexation Codes, Monday, March 17th, 2025. It is 7:46 in council chambers. The committee is present, which consists of Councilors Thompson, Harris, President Greer, and myself as chair. All those noted. We have no requests, no appointments, no pending, no director. Anybody got anything from miscellaneous? Okay, Mr. President?
Thank you, Chair. I know the director's not here, so this question might not get answered, but did we hear back? Anybody hear back? Did they send a draft over?
I have not received one. Mayor, have you? The development code?
The development code?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Shreve, Mr. Tedeki?
Nothing? Okay, I was just wondering. I think, I vaguely recall she said this week on Wednesday or something, but.
Say it does affect your offices.
No, awesome. Thank you, Chair.
Mr. Posick, it affects fire codes, doesn't it? With setbacks and distances? You haven't seen anything?
On residential, not much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Anything else?
So
what happens when Mr. Best isn't here.
Yeah.
You better be watching.
We miss you.
All right, nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:47.
Thank you, Mr. Heidick. That concludes our individual committee meetings. With no objection, I'd like to roll into just the committee of the whole. All right, seeing none. All right, today's Monday, March 17th, 2025. Today's committee of the whole meeting for Barberton City Council. I call this meeting to order at 7:48 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, citizens addressing council. I didn't have anything. Mayor, I'll turn it over to you and Insight. I believe Insight's here to answer any questions related to some questions that were sent via email.
Yes, thank you. There was a lot of great questions that came over, discussed last Monday here at council, and then were sent over on Friday with some additional questions. Response was sent to council earlier today. So Katie Brick from Insight and Scott Harrington are here with us to answer any questions that you may have.
Was all of council able to read the response from Insight this afternoon? Came a little bit later in the day.
I'll be reading them tonight, I have to work all day.
Haven't read yet. I don't think you got
Some
to.
of it, yeah.
So not many of us were able to get through the responses. I do want to thank you for sending them. I work full-time, so it was hard to get this all read. Couple of things that just jumped at me whenever I started to review it. And again, I'll respond more a little bit later this week, but who actually leads economic development in Barberton?
I do.
Wouldn't that be in conflict if you lead one of the groups of economic development with the BCIC?
No, we do different things, and we all work together.
I know we all work together, but I mean, wouldn't that be a bit of a conflict to have one of the groups leading all the groups?
No, I mean, I don't lead all the groups, so the BCIC is focused on acquiring property for development. It's not like they've got a big budget. So there's one piece of property, several parcels that the BCIC owns, but that's not any type of conflict with anything that the city's doing.
Okay. Is it in the charter that you lead economic development of Barberton?
I don't believe so, but at the end of the day, when economic development directly affects the general fund and income taxes and buying police cars and ambulances and roads, if that's the most important thing that gets the city moving with general funds, I took it upon myself, whether it's in the charter or not, everything kind of stops with me. I went out and got certified as an economic developer because it's important that we have job growth, we have high-paying jobs, we have opportunities for residents and for businesses to grow and expand.
When I asked you if you were the leader after Insight was here on the 3rd, do you remember what you told me?
I don't recall.
Okay.
What was,
You said you weren't. You said that you have too much other things to lead in the city, and that's why you had Insight, because you have to oversee too much.
okay, but there's a lot on my plate there, but.
And I'm not trying to sound attacking. I don't think we have somebody actually leading who has everybody under them and making this work the way it could. I don't think that exists.
Okay, and I'd love to talk to you more about that, but yes, so we convene weekly. I work with the planning department every week. We have a standing meeting. So we talk about issues and problems that might be on the horizon. We work with Insight on a weekly basis. On a bi-weekly basis, we bring in DC, we bring in the foundation and Main Street as well as the planning department and Insight. And we talk about things and address items that we're all dealing with, right? There could be leads that we're sharing. And it's important to note that, with your example with BCIC, that I also have a seat, as do you, with the BCDC, and no conflict there, nor with the foundation. So we all do work very closely together. We all work in great harmony. We have a group here between Insight, on the city side, between Insight and Russell that is not only recognized but well respected at the local level, the state level, and the federal level. It's, you know, we all work together at all those levels.
I appreciate you facilitating those meetings. Number 15, Barberton does not have a formal economic development strategy. I know several times it was mentioned that you guys are working off a strategy. When we don't have a plan, we don't have a strategy, how does anything become measurable? How do we know that going to a visit versus bringing in tax dollars, those are two very different things. So without a strategy, without a plan, how do we know what we're doing?
Our main strategy is focused on business retention and expansion. That's why Insight was hired. We feel that we bring a balance to the services that Retzel provides. And our strategy is, you know, we follow the directives of the mayor, looking for opportunities for the city. The mayor was a part of a group that was convened about a year ago. Insight was a part of that group, the foundation, Retzel, the planning department, Mike Teodecki, I believe you were at that meeting, where we discussed how can we move the city forward by looking to other communities and what they have done, focusing on place-based initiatives to attract more businesses and residents to the community. And from those conversations, what happened was it was decided amongst the group that a facilitator needed to be hired to help to convene those discussions and formulate a formal economic development strategy. And so I believe from that, the foundation has put out an RFP looking for a consulting group to come in and perform that work.
It just makes it very hard to be measurable, and like there hasn't been a strategy for 9 years then?
I'm sorry.
There hasn't been a strategy for the 9 years that we've been contracted?
I have not worked here for 9 years. I've only been here for less than 2. I believe that originally the predecessor to Sean Joyce had established some goals and objectives for the contract. As now that we have come at no cost to the city, we've created a CRM to track our business retention expansion visits. That is something that we built ourselves and took that cost on ourselves as a company. The next step to that work is we're going to build out a dashboard so that we can come to you quarterly and show you all of the visits, the total employment counts for all the companies, as well as any outcomes that come out of those visits. Because we heard loud and clear from the meeting last week that there needs to be more communication, and so we appreciate that. We believe that communication should be direct, in person, and professional when possible. So, you know, we will hold up that standard in our communications with you all. And then in addition to that, how else will we measure our effectiveness? Well, we'll measure it via surveys that we're going to give our businesses after we visit with them, to ask them, was this a valuable use of your time? Mm-hmm. Would you recommend one of your colleague businesses to participate in one of these meetings? So that is something that, you know, we are going to implement going forward.
And thank you. I think that would help, because when you only get to see somebody during a budget and then there's no, you know, we don't know what you're doing for a year.
Sure.
Probably developing that is good, you know, just even with the other cities that you guys are working with, to have that, because it is coming at a great cost for Barberton. You know, like it says here that you're retaining you guys for 25 hours per month. So that's like $166 per hour. Like that costs money when we can't see anything measurable. We see no metrics. No, you know, I appreciate you guys took out names and stuff, but, you know, no information to go off of. So do you believe that a consulting group does better for a city than if we were to have an economic developer on our own, like a manager?
One thing I wanted to mention that I didn't get to, we would invite you to a ride along with us for a BRE visit in your ward. for a time that is most convenient for you and the business. If there's a specific business you want to meet with, we'd be happy to arrange that because we invite all of council to participate in those, just so you get a sense of what these visits are like. And it really is more of us listening to their needs and what's happening rather than us like coming in and like telling them about us. It's not about us, it's about them. So we try to keep it limited to just listening. Do I feel that consulting firms do a better job, or would a developer who worked full-time in the city do a better job? That's a great question. I think that, for the value that we bring the community, I think we're a great value. We bring 4 people as part of our team instead of 1. It's very difficult to, in this day and age, to find, for the amount that you have budgeted for economic development, to find a full-time person at that rate. So on that end, I feel that it is a great value, and I will say that the network that we bring has already paid in dividends to this community. Most recently with, being a united front with the state to attract $1 million investment in the Justice Center. That's because, we have a network that we leveraged, and that, showing that this community was unified in that work, I think, made it very attractive to Mr. Romer to make that or to spearhead that investment here in the community. So I think that it depends, but we have so many people involved in economic development here in the city, as you know, and I think each person brings their own suite of expertise and knowledge that, when we're all together working as a team, we do great work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think statistically, cities that have their own economic development manager are able to do better, but I would want to not just say that. I would like to back that up to everybody with some statistics. But I do think that we should be looking at bringing on our own, even if that means pulling some money from somewhere else in our budget to afford that, to have that person lead economic development with, like you said, all the groups that we do have. Because it looks like we went from back in the 80s, all we had was the BCDC going strong. And then, since then, the foundation, the Main Street, the BCIC, Insight, Retzel, that's a big team of economic development here. So I definitely think we need to have somebody just exclusively here leading that. But like I said, having just received this, I would need a little bit more time to send you guys my thoughts on that.
I haven't got the chance to look at it. I downloaded it here, and one thing that sticks out to me here is about the Rite Aid building. We talked about this. Was there any more, did we reach back out to this attorney or anybody?
I reached out to the attorney representing the company that was interested, and haven't heard back.
Have we tried to reach out to him again?
Yeah, I've reached out several times.
Okay. And then I understand that a small grocer affiliated with the Dollar Store concept was also interested. We know about the moratorium, but I think it's a DG Marketplace, more of a grocery type store. Have we discussed that any further, or we just? Because I've actually talked to the owner of that building. He called me several months ago and asked me, he wanted to introduce himself and everything, and we got on the subject of what has Insight or the city done to help him, and I know it's not particularly our job to do that, but we should be helping these individuals as much as we possibly can. And he's not heard from you.
Not recently, but I've
not
had
for a long time, according to what I was told.
I've had several conversations with him, but it was pretty much dead on arrival with the moratorium about whether or not we were going to move forward with that one.
Mm-hmm.
I do think a grocer would be awesome for the neighborhood so that people could walk and have fresh food in their neighborhood. So I personally like the concept. and would love to see it if it were not affiliated with a dollar store, or perhaps that there could be some sort of amendment made to that.
Right.
moratorium.
So we
Have you-
met internally with the planning director and with the law director on this, and when this was kind of getting pretty in-depth with that grocer, is because we had all the problems on the north end of town. And, you know, what I kept hearing from the rep from DG Marketplace was, well, go to I think there's one in Whitman or somewhere. just
There is.
Not too far away. Look how nice it is. I said, well, come to North Barberton, let me show you what we're dealing with at this moment right now, what we've been dealing with. So I don't know if those are franchised out or anything. We did talk to the law director and the planning director, and at that time, there's really not, the decision was kind of like, let's not move forward right now. Let's see how the development code goes. Started meeting with council one-on-one and see how you guys feel about the moratorium. So there's a possibility. I agree that a grocer would be very nice there in that area. And I'm not sure what type of other leads the owner of the building, the property has come upon.
Have you guys been to the Rittman DG Marketplace?
I have not. I've been, there's one in Brunswick that I'm aware of.
What's your thoughts?
I thought it looked nice, the photos that I saw. I asked a friend who lives in Brunswick what she thought, and she, you know, she thinks it's nice. It's not where she shops. She's more of a Marks person, but similar.
I've actually been to the one in Rittman
What'd you
and talked to
think?
the assistant manager there. So, $4 million in sales in 1 year.
Wow,
So,
that's significant.
you know, and they seem to want to go bigger. So that's something I want to look at.
Yes.
Mayor, I would have a quick question. It was just something she mentioned. The CIC, you are a member of the board on that?
Yes.
Are you a voting member?
Yes.
Who is the current chair of it? I can't remember what I saw in the email one time.
Mr. Hart.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
I have a question. You said that, like, your main focus is retaining business and helping businesses grow. Well, as we all know in Barberton, we're pretty much landlocked. So as far as like our major businesses in the city, we don't have much land for them to grow on. Are you also focusing on what smaller companies, like computer type companies, you know, those type of industries that can fit in smaller places, but can also, you know, bring in younger couples to bring in younger people and families into Barberton? Are you looking at those types of industries?
So we're not, when expansion comes up in our conversations, it's because through the BRE meeting, it is brought up that we would like to expand here, here's what we need. Scott Harrington from our team, who I know you've heard of, he has done a lot, he basically manages the entire BRE program for the city and has had those conversations. But, you know, of course, we would welcome any type of business. I think, you know, what you're alluding to is maybe a tech company that could attract some remote workers or someone who maybe could work the back end of a company and not necessarily have to be physically there. Like, that's another tool in economic development. I've actually met with a company that they are focused on relocating people to communities, so they will, for a contracted fee, help to bring remote workers to a community so that they can be taxpayers in the community to help drive economic development that way.
Yeah.
But you raised an interesting point, and that is something, you know, we focus on. We've got 94 businesses on our active BRE list, and we, you know, want them all to grow. And so it's not just the bigger companies, it's the small ones too.
I know my daughter previously worked for Homesite Insurance.
Oh, wow.
In their call center, and during COVID, they went to home workers. And then after COVID, they were like, this is working great, why go back?
Yeah.
So they sold their office space and everybody works from home.
Wow.
So it works out great.
Well, we try to follow those trends. I mean, obviously COVID threw a wrench in things.
Yeah.
We're working from home, office space kind of obliterated. I didn't really affect us all that much because our solid base is still manufacturing, and jobs you can't do from home. But, you know, repurpose, the one thing that's interesting is you go to these conferences and we talk to different cities and they say there's no available buildings. Well, there's tons of buildings, but they were built in the 40s and 50s, right? So, you know, dock space, ceiling height, those types of things don't meet today's needs of businesses. So we always try to follow the trends in all the industries and see what we can do to build those here and have those expand. Board was noticed.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you guys for coming in and sitting through all this. This is not necessarily related to Insight, and this may just be a real quick answer. With COVID and all of the tech companies moving around and remote work, it really hurt communities because they started hiring remote work, people started moving out of the community to go live somewhere else based off another standard of living somewhere else. Income taxes were, like, there was a question on, can we charge income tax based on where the company's at, not where they live at type deal. How did that all pan out, and did that level out? Did that change at all, or did it level out? Did they allow us to charge income tax from workers for a company located in the business rather than where they live at?
I know there's a ton of discussion on that, and off the top of my head, I can't give you a clear answer, so I'm going to throw it over and put Jeremy on the spot.
So they did, during COVID, they made an exception because city income tax, it's withheld where you work, but you file where you live. So they made an exception during COVID, and I think it was only for the 1 year, could have been 2, that they made the exception where it was withheld where you normally work. So you could have been working from home. So say, for instance, a person in Barberton could have been working up in Akron, but remotely, it was being withheld still at the Akron rate. So there was a lawsuit brought up. It did go to Ohio Supreme Court. They were monitoring the case because they were saying, hey, that was illegal for the governor to declare that. It was settled in favor of the cities that it was allowed during that time, but it was only for like that 1 or 2 year period. It's now to the point, basically, it's back to where you work. So if a person's working remotely from their house, majority of their time, their income tax is being withheld where their house is. So if it's a Barberton resident working for a company based out of Akron, if they're spending all their time at work at their house in Barberton, that income tax should be withheld at the Barberton rate and filed with, it would be RETA, be filed with RETA as a withholding tax for the city of Barberton.
That's just for the state of Ohio, though.
Correct.
So other states may have adopted something else.
Yeah, it depends on the state because municipal income tax is governed by ORC, the Ohio Revised Code. So different states could be different. So, but yeah, here in Ohio, if a person's working remotely entirely, their income tax should be withheld where they are working at, which would be their home at that point in time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I knew that was all over the place, and I didn't know if it settled, the dust settled, and cities won.
Yeah.
Because it kind of hurt a lot of.
It's been kind of somewhat difficult to track that because it's constantly changing,
Yeah.
as you said. So move to the finance director, because I need you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, if you could read through the responses and again, get back in touch with us so we can address those and if you have any other questions.
All right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to jump into our committee reports. We're going to start with street, sidewalk, and lighting with Mrs. Beck.
Thank you, Mr. President. Street, sidewalk, and lighting has nothing to report, and with that, I pass.
Thank you, Mrs. Beck. Environmental Health and Social Services, Mrs. Hager.
Thank you, Mr. President. Environmental Health and Social Services has nothing to report, and with that, I pass.
Thank you. Planning, Annexation, and Codes, Mr. Heidick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Planning, Annexation, and Codes has nothing to report. That I pass.
Thank you. City Properties, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Easterling.
Thank you, Mr. President. Cities, Parks, and Recreation has nothing to report, and with that, I pass.
Thank you.
They got the.
Yeah, you do have one.
Well, it was referred to finance.
Yeah, but you would still call it out.
Okay. We had, one topic of discussion was legislation for a letter from Don Patterson, Director of Department of Parks and Recreation, requesting legislation to appropriate $15,000 for the unappropriated Parks Revolving Fund to the capital budget of the Parks Revolving Fund. One reading and emergency wording requested, and we referred that to finance. It's for fence in the restrooms. Do I have any questions? Do I have a?
No, you don't have to.
Oh, and?
That you pass.
And
That you
that I
pass.
Thank you, Mr. Easterling. Public Welfare and Safety, Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Public Welfare and Safety met on March 10th, 2025, and we have nothing to report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rules, Marketing, and Development, Ms. Garrett.
Thank you, President Greer. Rules, Marketing, and Development met on March 10th. We had two pieces of legislation called for that evening. The first was a letter from Councilman Heidick requesting legislation to amend Ordinance 144-2009, posting places. That came out of committee. And a letter from Ms. Eisman requesting legislation to amend the days of Dora. And that also came out of committee. And with that, I pass.
Thank you, Ms. Garrett. City Utilities, Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. President. City Utilities has nothing to report with that I pass.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Finance and Personnel, Mrs. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last week, council voted on legislation that was in our committee with the exception of the budget, which is still being discussed. We did go over that this evening, March 17th, in addition to calling for two pieces of legislation, the first being a request from Lisa Miller, our law director, to authorize the approval of the payment to Retzel in the amount of $21,000 for two invoices, emergency wording, and one reading requested. Also had a referral from Parks, a letter from Don Patterson, our Parks Director, requesting legislation to appropriate $50,000 to the capital budget of the Parks Revolving Fund. One reading, emergency wording requested, like Mr. Easterling said, for fencing and a new restroom down at College Park. Like I said, we also discussed the budget, which will have the third and final reading next week. And with that, I pass.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I have two things. First off, changes to the budget need to be submitted to the finance director so that we can have a final copy of that budget to amend to next week when we vote on that. And secondly, I apologize, today is St. Patty's Day, and I put it in my president handbook for any future presidents to take that into account on our council nights. Other than that, I don't have anything. Is there anything from the body?
Hey, you got me out of work.
Yeah, that was quite crazy. Ms. Gerhart?
I had a couple of things. First, I wanted to thank my residents who came out on Saturday. I had a great turnout. We enjoyed lots of Leach's Donuts and coffee and good conversation. Next, I was going to ask Captain Polachek, do you have any updates on the investigation about the house that blew up in my ward?
The state court marshal's in charge of all that.
They haven't found anything yet?
We
Okay.
can't comment.
Oh, no, that's fine. I didn't know. Okay.
And that's where we're at.
Okay, thank you. And then I feel like this, I don't know, committee of the whole, or it's a budget conversation or whatever. I just wanted to say I appreciated Mr. Easterling's email that he had sent out a couple weeks ago, just kind of expressing some of his concerns about, are we borrowing ourselves into tough times with our building plans and stuff for the city building and the Justice Center. I feel like this isn't something that we've just gotten to have a genuine conversation on, but through the budget talks, it kind of made me think of things differently. And not really, I guess I've talked to you about concerns even as far as last year, but like when Chief Iona brought up that the fire station is only 16 years old and it already needs a new roof. I've never bought a roof before, but thinking, well, we'd have 2 roofs to buy and maybe not too long of a distant future. We're taking out 25 years, right, of loans and such. And within 16, we might already be needing to figure out how to put roofs on things. 2 boilers, 2 AC units, an elevator that hasn't worked in a few months, and we're still making this building part of a plan. We're staying on the best real estate. When we talk about real estate in Barberton, overlooking the lake, what if Kuhn were able to get their hands on something over here, and what could it look like for the economic development of the city? Is the jail, because it's grandfathered in, does it still make it safe? Because it's still part of the plan. So it's like $30 million to keep 2 old buildings up and running. Like Mr. Easterling said, is this stuff that we should be taking bonds out for, or raising our storm water rate to help pay for this versus that going through infrastructure? Looking in a budget where we have $321,000, almost $322,000 for maintaining 1 building, does that double because we have 2 buildings? I don't know, and you guys don't know. I just wondered if these are things that anybody else has thought of while we're listening to budget talks. Is there any concern for the future of Barberton to be paying for 2 buildings? Maybe these are just the things I lay awake at night about, but it's crossed my mind and I kind of wanted the ability to bring it up. With that, I pass, President Greer.
Thank you, Ms. Gerhart. Mr. Heidick?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm looking at the calendar of upcoming meetings that goes from tonight all the way through April 18th, and am I correct? I am not seeing a charter review meeting listed anywhere in the next month?
I haven't seen one. Mayor?
They were contacted. I'm not sure if anything has been scheduled yet, but I'll check them out.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other comments from the body? Department heads? All right. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. President. Councilperson Gerhart, yeah, in response to your question, I know you weren't really asking the question for tonight. Yeah, we've looked at all that stuff, and we can have that conversation. The thought is, and Councilman Heidick has brought this up a lot, if you're spending $30 million on 2 buildings, you better not come back in 10 years or 15 years and say, well, we need a new something, right? So, yeah, we've looked at that. Having Finance Director Flaker okay with, kind of the money and the financing, it's a big step. And we've poured over this numerous times. If you get the bonds, they're set at an interest rate, so you're only paying that amount, right? So making sure that the interest rate is conducive to what is in our term sheet, and then you got construction material, so you got to come in within budget, right? And so we've had all those conversations. We've been, working on this nonstop since 2012, right, in chunks. And so, yeah, we can have those conversations because we thought of that as well, and we want to make sure as well. I mean, this is public money, one way or another. It's public money, so don't want to spend $30 million and then, like I said, come back in 5, 10, 15, 20 years and say we need a new one of these, right? So, yeah. So appreciate the comments, and we can have those conversations. I already just sent you an email tonight, seeing if you have time to meet this week. So
I work full-time, Mayor. I'm sorry. It's
hey,
hard.
No, whenever you're available. Change for Change will be held next Friday, the 21st. Block 7, benefiting women, Welcome to Recovery Project, nonprofits focusing on women in recovery. Sent this in my email to council, but tomorrow at 1:30, the grand opening of the Barberton Event Center at 538 West Tusk. Want to congratulate them on this opening, this grand opening. They were open this past weekend. Despite it looking okay outside, it was still pretty cool and windy. Seemed like they were very busy both days. We continue to work on our streets, so whether that's concrete, asphalt, or new processes, resurfacing, resealing. We tried a demo, a new kind of mastic system for our concrete streets, kind of filling in those joints, because some of the joints have really kind of exploded over the last few years, and that really shouldn't happen. So trying a new process, had a demo. We're going to make some decisions here in a little bit, but just wanted to let you know that we're doing everything we can to address our roads and the longevity of our roads as well. This Thursday, the Barberton Community Foundation will meet at 5 p.m. and discuss several things. One of them is the City Justice Center term sheet, grant proposal. Again, this is open to the public at 5 o'clock. We will go into the schedule calls for the board to go into executive session at the beginning, so the board can talk about the issues. The public would have to vacate due to the executive session, but then afterwards the public is welcome back in. But a vote is will be assumed to happen that evening on this important project. So, in terms of the budget, again, I appreciate all the questions. And if you have any other questions over the next week, please reach out to us so we can get in touch with you. If you sent questions this weekend and I have not gotten back to you, or a department head has not gotten back to you, I know that I was very busy with some other things today, but I started pulling information, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Do want to take my hat off and thank the crews and our service division. As of this morning, they're working on 5 water main breaks. You go from up to 70 degrees down to, the low, the mid to high 30s. I think the peak today was supposed to be around 44, 46. It's supposed to kind of roller coaster the rest of the next 2 weeks. These water main breaks to fix can take an hour and a half to 24 hours, depending on the depth, the size of the line, the severity of the break. But they've really been working at it hard, so I want to thank them for their dedication and hard work. Next, congratulations to the Akron Zips on going to the big dance, the NCAA tournament starting later this week. And then just finally, happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone. Any questions? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor.